Just a minute. Thank you. Okay, can you see my screen? Hello?
We can see your screen, but we can't see you.
Okay, don't know why. Doesn't matter. The main thing is you can see my screen. Greetings, friends, from Melbourne in Australia. I'm presenting on the part of Fergus King, Bishop Matt Brain, and myself, Anglican Pioneer Minister, with my practice called My Pilgrim's Way, a digital ministry platform for digital and place-based mission enterprise. So we are addressing in our paper the question, is online worship real or the equal to face-to-face worship? And I'll stick to the time frame in the three-part presentation. The first part is a theological context. The second part is where I present My Pilgrim's Way, which is an example of digital ministry platform and practice. And the third section is where My Pilgrim's Way is commented on by Bishop Matt Brain from the Diocese of Bendigo in terms of praxis. So, the question about digital ministry and what is taking place in some of the material that we've been examining is not new. Sorry, there's something wrong with the screen. It's not new. Questions of absence and presence related to God, Christ, and Spirit were being asked by early church worshipping communities. The answer to the question in today's times can be found when we take a missional hermeneutic approach informed by sacramental theology, which provides the answer that it is about taking on board the changing context and environments for church required to be able to provide new questions and answers by theologians. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reframe the question into a statement to state that yes, the digital is real. God lives online when we meet in the changing context of congregating as God's people, informed by digital ministry as online church. But furthermore, a missional hermeneutic approach means our attention is placed on the context, which means we realize that we are a community online, which is as radical as the first Christian liturgical faith responses. So here, I wish to shift the key question as being, how is digital media opening up missional, missio Dei opportunities for church life and digital ministry practices? And here I will provide a case study being My Pilgrim's Way with its website, mypilgrimsway.com. But first, part one, to provide the fairly heavy-duty theological context to the presentation. And by the way, please do have a read of the paper and have a look at the video, because then you'll get the full impact. So I have to here summarize. So the context really here is about looking at lifting Christian materials within a contemporary context is inadequate, because a mission hermeneutics is about pointing to the fact that there's a dynamic equivalence. What this means is that scripture is here in a new context, or as Boff describes, it is about a manner, a style, a spirit. It's a dynamic equivalence is important for digital ministry, because the medium here is being pointed to as also being the message, namely, the media changes the practice of ministry, as well as how liturgy is presented. Christianity has dealt with immediacy and participation in the Eucharist from the time of the early church. For example, just by looking at how sacrificial meals were presented in the Last Supper provides an example in terms of order and meaning. Here we refer to anamnesis, making present and effective past events and future meanings, as well as events. Eschaton, past reality being presented in the here and now. We also have the example of spiritualization, referencing Second Temple Judaism, and how meanings were reconfigured to include physical absence by early church Christians. Real presence or absence here also references Augustine of Hippo, which is about gifts being delivered to recipients and the real presence of God being part of the debate in most post-biblical thinking. Here referencing Aristotelian categories of substance and accidents, as well as the work of Thomas Aquinas, who radically altered doctrine and liturgical practices. An example here is also seals and the dynamics of the Eucharist, referencing the metamorphosis of the Christian loaf to the coin-like wafer, which is another example. Pilgrimage is also an example of the sanctification of place, which has changed over time. And today we have online pilgrimage, with the digital providing new transformations. I now progress to the second part of the presentation. Christian tradition is not static. It's about the context, taking into our vision the changes in understanding and practice, and asking the question of how the digital age has changed the framework and the practices. Missional hermeneutic provides the answer. And here I provide the focus on the human-computer interaction. We change the medium as we are also changed. This is a dynamic, interactive relationship. And here I reference the field of cybernetics, which is absent in digital theological inquiry. It's not simply about church online, streaming a church service. This is about new platforms and interactivities of digital ministry, which are real, merging in relationship. It's about A, the human-computer relationship, B, inquiry into the medium, and C, what is on offer and how this provides opportunities to inform digital ministry practices, liturgical and congregating as Christians. I move very quickly to data, because the data tells us. Barna report indicates that 80% of searching online, people who are searching online to do with church and Christianity, are not interested in physical church. We know that online church has increased in the COVID and post-COVID period, which is a continuing trend. In addition, engagement 66% online is higher than face-to-face, according to the Barna reports. There is high engagement in prayer. 66% of the US weekly engagement provides this data. Furthermore, the older generation, Generation X and millennials, have drifted from conventional church. They are looking for new forms of church. So the question really is also, how can prayer be a spark for spiritual renewal? In the UK, 1% of the population attend church in this post-Christian era, according to The Guardian, published 3 weeks ago. In Australia, the percentage of no religion is rising. And however, there's an increase in people stating that they are spiritual. 56% of the population state a belief in God, and 27% state that they are mystical. There's another component to all of this. And here I talk about absence and the need to be aware that engagement in digital ministry is actually quite critical. Because when we look at Google search engine, there is an absence of church, the term church or sermon. I wish now to introduce My Pilgrim's Way as a community platform, which, in contrast, for example, to gathering on Facebook, this is a native platform, namely everything is included on the platform, including no advertising. MPW Community Platform amplifies agency. It enables small groups curating content. It provides organic gathering, worship, pastoral care, prayer. Also, there is MPW Academy, which is the how-to to be part of the platform and then continue proliferating. The news in this domain is, in terms of a practical, down-to-earth, from the coalface news, is that it's all about small groups. No longer is it a focus on numbers in order to map out the way forward. What we find it is in practicing on a platform is that it's about being hyperlocal, niche, bespoke. It's all about disciple making for disciple making. Here, the digital is easier, which providing a focus on the relational. Seth Godwin, a marketing expert, he says, it's not about billions of people. It's about craft your message, see the individual. It's about asking questions, not telling, finding ways to solve, experiment, celebrate failures, measure engagement pathways. It's about Mother Church with satellites, sermons breaking up with questions, sermons with breaking up into 3 sections, questions, and then you land the plane. So in many ways, this is a call to mission. Join me on MPW Community Platform to co-develop, including capacity for podcasts, online radio, prayer, pilgrimages, feasts, one-to-one small groups, place-based and online collaboration, dynamic, operating digitally, unconstrained by physical location. So get in touch with me by email. So what does this look like in an Anglican diocese of Bendigo?
Srebrenka,
Well,
I hate to stop, but we've passed our 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll just tie it up.
Okay.
Basically, the digital platform is not a substitute for embodied presence, but it provides for new digital gathering and new forms informed by old patterns. It's a recognition of local expression and, in Bishop Matt's words, MPW is a seed for answering questions of absence and presence in sacramental ministry. Thank you. Whoops. Yeah. Last slide.
Thank you so much. And as we can tell, it's always, there's never enough time to say everything we need to say. But remember, go and take a look at the papers online. Our respondent to this paper, I forgot to introduce him, so I'll do that now, is Matthew Pulis, who is a Maltese Catholic priest. Prior to joining the seminary, he graduated with a master's in science and informatics from the University of Malta. After a degree in philosophy and theology, he pursued his MA studies at the Center for Digital Theology at the University of Durham. He's currently reading for his doctorate in digital theology, where he is theologically studying the experiential and spiritual needs of Maltese Gen Z people as expressed through their gaming habits. And so, Matthew, I will turn it over to you for your response.
So, thanks to the authors for this intriguing paper. The authors root their discussion on the seemingly continuous relationship, or at least how I interpret it, between past traditions and today's ministry on the how rather than the what. In the how, they speak of a manner, a style, and a spirit. Agreeing in concept, but speaking from a Roman Catholic mindset, I would like to warn against lessening the importance of the what, the techniques involved. While the liturgy is continually reformed, certain aspects of the sacramental life, especially the matter of the sacrament, has been cemented since the apostolic tradition. Hence, while I agree we shouldn't just copy the style, but tease out the spirit, we should be wary of the unfleshed practice and also the media used for the liturgy, because as the authors affirm, the media itself is transformative. The authors emphasize on the Lord's Supper is on the anamnesis, considering the anamnestic command. When we look at the in remembrance of me, the of me refers to Christ as the memorial's object and content. Thus, it refers to his whole salvific mystery. Thus, do this reflects to a complex transcendental action, which makes us remember while making present for us. Through a quick historical tour, the authors reflect on the various liturgical changes, echoing Stewart in concluding that it is odd, and here I quote, that the bread and wine tradition survived, end quote. Yet I believe we do have other liturgical parts which survive, at least in the Catholic tradition. If we are to interpret the Mass through Apolline and Lucan tradition, the emphasis there is on the Eucharistia, the giving thanks, which we find traces in the preface. From a Matthew Markian tradition, we have also the emphasis on the blood shedding, reminiscent of Exodus 24, which today is refashioned in the Asperger's introductory part. The Eucharistic prayers themselves have been used and reused since the anaphora of Hippolytus, possibly earlier. Likewise, in the domain of pilgrimages, they note that the digital age offers new possibilities. Pilgrimage which do not involve a physical journey. Now, if interpreting this quote through a Maclunist perspective, that the tools change the users, thus this relationship between the digital pilgrim and the digital journey changes, of course, the pilgrim themselves. While I fully agree with the authors, I believe that there is a risk that we might end up watering down, quote, the holistic compendium of spirit and matter, end quote, as philosopher Edith Stein calls the person. I believe we shouldn't just stick to being embodied, but as being indispensably enfleshed beings, as David Wynyard suggests. Having said that, one should applaud initiatives such as the Pioneer Ministry, who are ministering to people who, through a constructivist ontology, are starting a fresh expression of the Church, while reimagining the Internet as a space of real congregating to discern and implement the Missio Dei. Agreeing with them that God is to be found everywhere and in every, quote, aspect of human experience, end quote, this is not to devalue the importance of the fleshed experience. Echoing Robert Stoddart and agreeing with the authors, I think that the physical movement in a pilgrimage is as essential as the sacred destination itself. Then again, Stoddart furthers that a place becomes sacred through acclamation by popular piety, which you can get online, and through what I interpret as being acknowledged through tradition, magisterium, scripture, etc. While appreciating the hybridity involved in the Melbourne pilgrimage, I must comment that popular piety is here interpreted to be merely social influence. And this need to enter hallowed ground, I believe, has been further highlighted during COVID as we are forced to fast from our churches. In conclusion, this thought-provoking and very challenging paper can be summarized through paraphrasing the author's own concluding remarks. COVID-19 being a crisis is a point of departure for the digitally mediated worship, which thus calls us to reimagine new forms of worship faithful to old patterns, but dare I add, theological tradition. Thank you very much.